So here we have the Aira EFX range from Roland. Some of the generic controls, 2 ins, 2 outs, all on mini jacks here, the main volume control, and a whole series of these retro-styled gripper knobs, as they're called, for controlling the parameters. We'll look at those in more detail in a bit. And then we've got the 3.5mm patching points, for mainly for CV inputs and things like that. And this, interestingly, labelled remote in, where you can actually patch in your iPad or Android device to program the unit. I'm playing a few notes here, and you'll notice plugged into the input 1, so we're actually getting the delay just coming straight through to output 1. That's on the left at the moment. Push the feedback up, pull it back down again, increase the delay time, and this is a digital delay. So there's no retroness particularly going on here. As I push this width up, this width control, you'll notice you start to get this ping-pong style delay. And as you push this up, it changes the relative delay time between left and right. So you can go from sort of quick repeats to slower repeats to repeats that just literally double the time on the right as they are on the left. We push this feedback up, and you can hear the sound keeps on repeating for a very long time if you want to. Especially if you press the hold button here. It keeps the repeating this delay buffer, and you can then tweak the time. This is great for creating some unusual effects. Very weird sounds. And you can change the width while you're doing this, change the delay time. You get it's basically speeding up or slowing down the reading and writing into that buffer, the delay buffer. And we can control this with a CV input. So I've routed, this is an external LFO, patched into delay time. So it's modulating the delay time up and down. So you can hear the kind of patching going on here. If we take the hold button off, you can hear the LFO is still modulating the delay time as we play. You get some really quite crazy effects there. So it's pretty fun. Now if we have a relatively low delay time, take the feedback off, a short delay time, pull the feedback off, add the width up and add a little bit of modulation, you get a chorus effect. So we're adding this slight pitch modulation to the sound, using the delay by modulating the delay time up and down. You get stereo chorus. A very effective effect. So the Demore isn't just a sort of straight, sort of longer delay time-based unit. You can do your chorus effects quite easily, and this is the beauty of the patching. You've got you can actually take the LFO from a synth if the LFO output is available, so from an analog synth or a modular system. And then we press the hold again. Get some weird and wonderful drones. Strange backdrops to tracks. And really quite a lot of fun to be had there. So now we're going to use the LFO to modulate the feedback. So you can see it's interesting but not as effective. There's something great about modulating that delay time with any kind of delay unit. This now is modulating the dry-wet balance next to that gripper number 4 control. And we can do the same thing with the width parameter as well, where it's actually modulating that time difference between the left and the right. And we'll need to push our LFO up here, our LFO amount up to get some activity coming through on that particular parameter. So now we're over to the torcido, or torcido, depending on where you're from, I guess. And this is a distortion overdrive effect. Now the main parameters here are the distortion and tone. If we can push that distortion up, drive up, get a noticeably more gnarly effect coming through there. So great if you want to achieve those kind of classic acidic 303, overdriven 303 lines, that kind of thing. With some heavy lead action. You can hear how the tone control makes a massive difference here. And you can combine this with the wet and dry control, and also this tube warmth control to decide how you want, or how hard you want to drive the sound and how much of it you want to hear. You can hear with the dry wet control, it goes from kind of, the dry is very quiet, the wet is very loud, so there's not much, there's no kind of auto leveling going on there, which can be a little bit tricky when you're setting things up. Or actually you're controlling them externally. So here we're going to use an LFO to control that tube warmth, so we get this kind of tremolo type effect coming through as it modulates that. And we've got the boost control, this low boost, which brings out much more of the low end. So there's quite a few things you can play around with here to change the sort of tonality. We can plug in our LFO into the tone control. We can bring up the level of that modulation. You can see the little LED flickering away there. And again, with that kind of quite speedy LFO, you get this kind of almost a tremolo type effect. But this could be routed from all kinds of places. It could be an envelope, it could be like a modulation wheel or something like that. It could be related to pitch, and so on. So maybe not as immediately fun or even useful as the delay unit we looked at just before, and maybe you want to look at guitar pedals instead for something like this kind of effect. This is Bit Raiser, so we have, this is a sample rate bit depth reduction plugin with built-in filtering. So we can change the bit depth there, and then also the sample rate, and you can see what these this filter in here as well, where you've got filter cutoff and resonance together. You can take some of the edge off that, some of the nastiness, some of the aliasing artifacts that you would find with that are generated through this process. So a pretty nice filter there as well, you get some nice effects coming through from that. And you get lots of weird harmonics coming through because of those aliasing effects, and we can modulate that once again with our LFO. So it starts to descend into complete mush if we really want it to. So now this modulates the bit depth, and once again descends into nastiness and mush, if we want to go that far. The little switch I just pressed there actually changes the filter cutoff, the filter I should say, from high pass to low pass. So there's these two different configurations there. And then we have the scooper, which is broadly similar in some respects to the scatter effect you see on some other Aira units, but this time you have to record in what you want to scatter. So we've recorded, I press record, record play button once, and then again to record section of audio. And I can choose pitch parameter, filtering, scatter type, scatter depth, and so on. You can set the unit to accept a trigger pulse, an external unit, which means it should always be varying kind of in time when you actually record. It'll only start, you press the record button and it'll only start recording once that trigger pulse arrives. So I hold it down there to reset, play a little random phrase there, I slightly randomly press that record and play. And you end up with these kind of glitchy effects, which should be quite interesting if you run this then into the delay and start playing around with the high feedback modes and modulating delay time and so on. And of course we can modulate the scatter type or the scatter depth, which leads to some sonic mayhem. Play around again with another parameter where we actually modulate the pitch. And also don't forget that we can actually, what you get with each of these units is really, there's a sort of factory default setup, and you actually dive in and start adding your own sub-modules in here, so you actually repatch the whole thing quite heavily. Although of course you can't turn a scooper into a torpedo or anything like that, but lots of fun and plenty to play around with.